What are you still salty about? Reminds me of the time my high school chamber orchestra participated in a music competition. We worked our tails off learning Shostakovich's Quartet No. 8, which, if you don't know it, is crazy hard to play, not least because it includes a certain musical dissonance that doesn't come naturally to people, and we seriously nailed it. We show up to the competition only to discover that nearly everybody else had chosen easier, more melodic pieces, with a solid third of them all playing Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings. Not only did we not win any of the top spots, several of which went to people playing that damn Tchaikovsky, but our judges were writing notes about how the music sounded evil. Seriously, who marks down a chamber orchestra because you think the composer wrote evil music? Imbeciles. Kindergarten. Playing with a kid in the sandbox was a fairly drizzly day. We're making a castle and there's a puddle a few feet from us. He wants to dig a moat around the castle, and I say sure. So he just kinda jams his hand in the dirt and starts pulling, making way too huge of a channel, which he immediately realizes is going to just destroy our castle. So I say, quick, build a dam to stop the water. He freezes. Stares at me with wide eyes and mouth agape before running off. I think this is strange, but okay, whatever. I saved the castle, so I go back to digging when the teacher runs up and grabs me and says to go to timeout, to which I obviously protest and say no, WTF, I didn't do anything. She then immediately says she knows I said a bad word and to not try and lie, to which I am again confused and say I did not. After a few back and forths of her trying to pull me away by the arm and me rather violently resisting, it occurs to her to actually ask what happened. I explain the story. I still remember her face kinda dropping, realizing the other little shit thought I said damn instead of damn, and then immediately ratting on me. Tries to say, well, maybe use a different word, to which I again vehemently protest against, because no, that is the correct word for such a situation and that's just how it works and it's his fault for not knowing the word, etc., etc., until she finally gives in and explains to the kid that I did not swear, and that no one likes tattletales. I am in my 30s and on the other side of the country, and I still remember this as the very instance in which I gazed upon my fellow man and wept, for he is stupid. Reminds me of one of my painful childhood memories. Back in grade school many years ago, my very religious teacher believed that darn was basically just another way to say damn, making it equally blasphemous. I was not aware of this. So young Turk remarks in anger one day that he had just tripped on the darn rug. Miss Holier Than Thou says, "Turk, what did you just say?" I had a reputation for being the good kid, the one who never gets in trouble, the one all the teachers love, so my brain quickly scrambled to process the last few minutes. What had I done? What did I say? Then it hit me. She must have thought I said damn rug. So I hurriedly said, no. I would never say that. I said darn. Turk McGill. Stop that this instant. Completely panicked that she wasn't understanding me, I shouted, no, no. I'm not saying that other word, I'm saying darn. Darn. It's been a long time, but I think she actually put her hands over her ears and sent me to the principal's office. The first time for such a thing. I tearfully explained what happened, and then I said darn. But she thought I said the other word. But I didn't. I just said darn. I said rrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr told me to go back to class and apologize to her, and not to use that word again. Ugh. So, my dad and mom got divorced before I was 1, and he would randomly come around once every few years to pretend to be a dad for a week or two, then disappear again. This is important to the story. Anyway, I have always sucked at and hated math. We got a homework assignment, I think I was in first grade, we were working on 0 times whatever number. I was super excited, because I understood it, and knew I would get all the questions right. The whole worksheet was just questions asking was 0 times another number was. My father made me show him the worksheet when I was finished, and made me change every damn answer because wow, you're stupid. Did you pay attention at all in class? I explained to the teacher when I turned it in and still got a fucking 0. Edited to add, wow, thank you for all the comments showing so much love and support. I kind of feel like that meme that mentions thinking you have a fairly normal childhood. Until you tell somebody else about it and they freak out and you then realize it wasn't normal at all, haha. Seriously though, to those of you kind-hearted human beings and parents out there who have broken the cycle, you're amazing. You keep doing what you're doing, you're an awesome human being and I love you. I'm adding this one too, because the more I think about it, the more it irritates me. When I was about 7 or so, my mother met my sister's father and got married to him. Now growing up, I grew up very poor. I would help out my mother and my father when he was around with jobs, things like landscaping work and such, to earn money to buy my own school supplies, toys, etc. My sister's dad had a lot of money, so we didn't struggle for once the year or so they were married. When I was little I was very much into Pokemon. I had tons of cards, books, figures, games, you name it. I even had the yellow version game for Game Boy Color, but in Japanese, it was an exclusive release from Japan. Not to mention every ultra-rare card you can think of. A lot of it was stuff I had bought myself or was a very, very rare gift given by family. My sister's dad ended up being extremely religious, and deciding that Pikachu is the devil, and threw away every single bit of Pokemon stuff one day while I was at school. Everything. Even my fucking Pokemon washcloth. Now the real kicker of the story, of course, he and my mother got divorced and he retained custody of my sister on weekends. There was a few times where I had gone over to his house to watch my sister or whatever, and literally her entire mother humpin' room was done in Pokemon. She had Pokemon everything. And her dad has a lot of money, so I mean she had fancy ass Pokemon everything, the newest everything. The cherry on top was that my sister barely knew what Pokemon was. We are 7 years apart. I still wonder if he did that. I know it's extremely juvenile, but it still pisses me off. I've mentioned this before, but when I was about 8 or 9, we had a big project in school which ended with us writing a story. I spent fucking hours on this thing. It was going to be the best book ever. It was only a matter of time before it was snapped up by some publisher and then it would be the talk of the Scholastic Book Fair, no doubt in my mind. It absolutely had to be in by the time school finished for Christmas, so my teacher could mark it over the break, so I stayed up until about 10 o'clock at night for about a week beforehand working on it, which, you know, is the closest thing you get to an all-nighter when you're about 9. It was my magnum opus. I got back to school in January to find that A, she had lost it, B, she was accusing me of not handing it in, and C, because mine was the only one she couldn't find, she decided to call me out in front of the class about it. I ended up locking myself in the toilet because I was crying so much. Worse still, it later transpired that when it turned up after all, she marked it as though it was handed in late, and the bitch still only gave me a middling grade. Fuck you, Mrs. Harding. Had a friend in college borrow my truck when I flew home for a month 1,500 miles away. He agreed to the terms of don't cross state lines, you only drive it to work and back, and if I find out you did otherwise it's going to be a big deal. I wasn't home a week and I got a call from our group of friends. He had taken the truck down to Connecticut, drove drunk, road raged at someone on the highway and love tapped the back end of a car. The kicker was he backed into his buddy's dad's brand new Lexus and caused $3,000 worth of damage. Needless to say, I flew home the next day. When confronted about it, he basically said, I don't have the money, it's your problem. So I have my mother, the insurance company, and the Lexus guy's dad all climbing down my throat to get me to fix the problem. The dad with the Lexus called me to say he was going to file a police report if I didn't pay, My mother was screaming about the insurance company dropping me. I went to school for the day, got back and he vanished. Cleaned out a bunch of shit from the apartment. Stole everybody's things. The one thing that still makes my blood boil is the fact that one of my good friends that lived with us will vehemently back up the shitbag anytime it's brought up. I understand that he didn't screw him over, but just denying it and saying that I need to let bygones be bygones is something I cannot do. The reason I said my mom was pissed is because she had warned me. And told me. Never let anyone drive your truck. For a day or two we didn't talk, but once all the stuff blew over she wasn't mad. I was only 19 at the time and she chalked it up to a life lesson learned. I called the insurance agency before I flew home, told them what had happened. Didn't fib. I called the worthless dirtbag that took my truck and told him that if my truck wasn't in front of my apartment I was going to report it as stolen. At this point I wish I would've. The phone call lasted about 15 minutes and consisted of me screaming at him. I've never been one to have any form of anger issues, but I genuinely don't remember anything past the first 3 minutes. Rage blackout is what it felt like. When I landed and got to my apartment my truck was there and we had the conversation that resulted in "yeah, I can't pay it, I'm broke." I had one of my friends there that picked me up from the airport. He held me back. The next day when I got back from school he had jumped the state line with all of his belonging from the apartment, along with some of my stuff. A couple days after that the insurance agency called and they asked for the full story again. I told them, and they asked for the guy's name and address. I gave them all the information I had and that was all I heard from them. Never got a bill, and my rates never went up. The guy whose dad owned the Lexus got a hold of me to tell me his dad was going to file a police report if I didn't pay up or if I didn't give him my insurance info. I told him the insurance company already knows, and I said if that he's going to go after anyone, to go after the dirtbag. Gave him the guy's info, and never heard another thing about it from them. I had a similar experience with my folks and my sister and I'm definitely salty about it. She moved out of province when she was 18, lived on her own, and had some money troubles. My dad paid her rent for 4 months, paid her car insurance the whole 18 months she was out there. During the same time period I needed dental surgery that I couldn't afford. I had asked my dad if he'd be willing to loan me the money for my dental surgery, and that I'd be able to pay him back with interest within 6 months. He told me you better start pinching your pennies so you can pay for your own surgery. A few years later my neighborhood got evacuated because of flooding. I showed up at my folks' house with all my belongings and my dog packed into my car, asking if I could stay with them until I was allowed to go back to my place. My dad said this isn't really great timing and shut the door. Primarily it's all the axles, then weight distribution followed by aerodynamics. Axles, make sure they are straight, if not then straighten them. Then polish them, and when you're finished, polish them some more. When you're done, throw them in a bag with some graphite. Wheels, I polished them up to make sure all the plastic burrs from the molding process were gone. After polishing them up, throw them in the same bag with the axles and graphite. Toss bag around to distribute graphite into all crevices. Weight distribution, 60:40 distribution. 60% of the weight in the front, 40% in the back. Aerodynamics, smooth flowing lines are nice. If you want to get technical that's fine, but test your car and make adjustments. The last year we raced I did a F1 car because my son loves F1 and the car was fast but slowed down toward the end of the track due to downforce from the rear spoiler. I had to redo the spoiler to get rid of all downforce and keep the speed through the end of the track. When assembling the car, test it out to make sure it goes straight. I used super glue to hold the axle/tire assemblies in place. I only had the 2 rear and 1 front tire making proper contact with the track, the other front tire barely touching the track for it to be legal. Also go over on your weight just a hair, the scales they use aren't calibrated or certified. I used a certified scale at work and had the weight dead nuts, and the scale at the track showed the car heavy. I resolved it by using my knife and whittling away at the rear underside of the car, which also helped weight distribution. My parents gave my mom's co-worker, who is my age, 25F, a down payment for her first home a couple years ago because my mom acquired a liking to her. The same year I needed emergency dental surgery, which was $5K. I was, still am, a single income living paycheck to paycheck and have not asked for money at all, not once. I have kept a steady job since 15. I moved out on my own at 19. They didn't help me out and I had nowhere to turn and ended up getting poor financial advice to put the cost of the surgery on a credit card. Took me 4 years to pay off. Still salty. Edit, wow, thanks for the support everyone. I do have to clarify that I don't begrudge my parents for not giving me money. I understand the reason why they did it, to make sure I could be on my feet and make a big financial decision on my own. I just am salty at the way it played out when they could have handled the situation when I felt alone and out of control. What they do with their money regarding other people is not my business, it's not my money. I felt as if I had been given the cold shoulder. I have a similar story. In 5th grade I had to get all my homework assignments signed by my parents in order to turn them in and get credit. On my birthday it snowed for the first time in 20 years in my town, but I forgot to get my homework signed the night before, probably because we went out for dinner or birthday stuff. Anyways, the teacher's aide didn't let me leave the classroom for lunch or recess while all the other kids went out and played in the snow. It was awful, but the worst part was my mom was a teacher at the school in the next wing down. I asked if I could go and get her signature to play in the snow with my friends, and the teacher's aide said it wouldn't be appropriate. My mom was obviously upset about it, and I was devastated to not get to play in the rare snow. So after school she took me and my brother up into the snow to play around and have a snowball fight. She turned my nightmare day into what was probably the most fun birthday I can remember from my early childhood. I have a pretty wonderful mom. My mom decided that she didn't want Christmas presents one year and made sure to tell us, me and my 2 brothers. I suggested to her instead that we donate what we would have spent to charity in her name. She said she was fine with that if that's what we wanted to do. So that's what I did. I sent her a nice little card and the info for the charities I donated to, so she could see that her decision helped some good organizations out. Mom was pissed. Why didn't you just send me a gift card if you weren't gonna buy me anything? You ruined Christmas. Now, I love my mom. By that point we had a total of 1 really nasty fight, and that was several years before. She was fine growing up. She was fine most of my adulthood except for a suicide attempt that I got to call the ambulance for from the other side of the country. Long story. I'm accustomed to buying my mom decent, thoughtful presents. So when she accused me of ruining Christmas for her, I was distraught. I sent her a screen cap of the conversation we had and circled where she said she'd be fine with my decision to donate in her name. Her response? I don't remember that. I deleted those texts. I lost my shit, told her it's her own fault for raising me to do as I'm told, and next time just don't say shit if she's gonna change her mind and not tell us. And then we didn't speak for 3 months. This was 2.5 years ago and I have not gotten over it. I'm 35 now. When I was 14 or 15, my mom stormed into my room one evening and accused me of smashing a glass and getting rid of the evidence. It was one of these retro Coke glasses. I swore I didn't break any glass, and if I did, why would I hide such a small accident? But my mom didn't believe me. She was so mad and accused me of lying. She wouldn't even say why I was her prime suspect. Somehow it just had to be me. Anyway, I got into trouble for it even without any evidence. Sometime later it turned out no glass was actually smashed. My mom thought the glasses she bought came in fours. but our neighbor bought the same set and there were actually 3 glasses in it. My mom acknowledged the fact but never apologized to me for how she screamed at me or how she accused me out of the blue. She just never mentioned it again. I'm still mad about it. Edit, just to address a couple of things since the comment got a lot more karma than it deserves tbh. My mom's not a narcissist. She just has a petty streak sometimes and she doesn't like being wrong. She's a great mom. She had me very young and I don't think she was really mature enough to raise kids back then, but she did her best and I really love her. Also, I'm not angry at her anymore, I'm a grown-ass adult and most of the time I almost act like one. It's just one of those memories you can't help but feel a bit salty about whenever it pops into your head. I think most people can relate. Moral of the story, acknowledge when you made a mistake to your kids. And people in general.